Oh, okay. So here's the thing. There's something that I think is fascinating, which is the lyrics to Waterloo, which is got it. My at Waterloo, Napoleon did surrender, which is the next thing that you have to say. Oh yeah, and I have met my destiny in quite a similar way. The history book on the shelf is always repeating itself. Waterloo, I was defeated. You won the war. Waterloo, promise to love you forevermore. Honestly, here's the thing. I feel comfortable because we're far enough along in the process to say this. We're working on a tiny Yonko side project that is a heavy metal thing. And I
Yeah.
think we might
And actually, and now it's my turn to say, Brandon, start the timer.
you got me. This is harder than I thought it was.
Yeah.
I was real cocky the whole time. Is there like a heavy metal cover of ABBA's Waterloo? Because like
I mean,
that's
if there's not, there should be. Yes.
I want it so bad.
Yeah.
Waterloo, Napoleon did surrender. Like I want that.
Well, and honestly, like that would fit in with a lot of heavy metal, uh, a lot of the oeuvre, of heavy metal, I think, because there's a lot of historical, whether it's like, actual history or like fantasy history, or Lord of the Rings or whatever. Yeah, but there's a lot of sort of epic stories, I think, in heavy metal. So I think it would actually fit in pretty well.
I think I might have to figure out how to. I might have to convince Andrew in a little bit. I don't know. I'll make an ABBA that we do an ABBA cover of Waterloo.
I know this sounds like a future Yonko project.
Yeah, this does sound like a future. Someone has to do heavy metal ABBA.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. Like it's hard, not hard. No, it's just sometimes it's frustrating because you just want stuff. You just make stuff because you want it to exist in
Yeah.
the world. Like
Exactly.
I just want pop punk covers of Grateful Dead songs because it doesn't make any gosh darn sense, and I want to see
Exactly.
it, and it makes me
Yeah.
laugh. And like heavy metal ABBA feels like it already should exist.
Hmm.
You know what I'm not sure about existing that worries me?
But
What do you think about AI's drawn stuff? That everyone seems more cool. Everyone's freaking out, but I'm not. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm everyone, so I'm a little bit freaking out right now. Because it feels like they're only gonna get better.
well, there's also like AI kind of music making, which um, I I don't know if I've heard anything that worries me yet. But the thing is that eventually there will be some. Can you hear me?
Yeah, your mic was falling down.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like I haven't heard any AI music that has worried me yet, but eventually I will. So I can understand like if you're at the point where AI drawing might sort of worry you. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like it's one of those things like that dude who was like, this artificial intelligence has a soul, and then you like look it up, and that dude was kind of wacky anyway. Do
Mhm.
you remember this whole sequence that happened to Google? Uh, yes, no.
Uh,
You missed this?
maybe.
So there was a dude, and he claims that Google has created intelligent life
Oh, okay.
by
Uh,
by
yeah,
accident or
I think I
sentient
missed
life.
this. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so he claims that Google created sentient life. It's weird that this just showed up and we were like, oh, that's wild. Anyway,
Yeah.
remember when we just started all seeing UFOs and we were like, yep,
Yeah.
that's right. But so he
That's
claimed
cool.
that Google that one of their chat bots was sentient, right?
Okay.
And he like shared the transcripts that say this chat bot was sentient. People have a lot of strong feelings about this,
Uh-huh.
obviously. But one of the things that is like he edited the conversation so that the gibberish was gone
Okay.
and just put the hits in, right?
Mm.
And B is like one of those dudes. He was like a hardcore, right, like Christian, and then he got into my favorite thing was like New Ageism, and then from New
Yeah.
Ageism, he's talking to robots, and like then maybe that's not the guy I need talking to robots.
Right.
I don't know who should be talking to robots, but I don't think it's that guy.
Mhm.
So that's the story as I understand it. I'm sure
Yeah,
people are gonna be like, well, what really happened
yeah.
was, uh, but I think it's always interesting when it comes to the discussion of AI and drawing and sentient and creativity. Is like no one asked the more complex question, which is like we don't actually know what that stuff is yet.
Mhm.
And that's a more upsetting and strange question. Is like it's really easy to be like, well, is this AI bot sentient? And then I have to be like, I actually don't know what sentience is, if I'm being real honest with myself right
Mhm.
now. And like we're the what is it, fences make good neighbors, and
Yeah.
the definition of stuff like that is not good fences. We do not have good fences on a lot of words that we think we have good fences on.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. I think, well, so I mean, I kind of hesitate to bring this up because it's always it's difficult to bring in like fiction, into real life, but at the same time we're artists, so
Right.
yeah. So I've one of the shows I've been watching recently is Westworld. And
Mhm.
have you ever watched Westworld?
No, but I want to. I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah. Um, so it's one of the shows that it's one of those shows that I've wanted to watch for a while, and finally, I ended up my new cell phone plan has HBO on it, so I was like, oh well, this is a good opportunity to watch Westworld, So, um, so I know I'm a little bit late to the game with it, but I've been recently watching it, so it's really interesting because basically, you know the premise, of course, right? Like
Yeah,
there's
the
yeah,
world that happens in the West. Am I right about that?
what well, it so it's right in the title. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's Westworld. I figured it out. It's like it's Westworld. It's like the sequel to Waterworld, I think.
Right. So what Westworld is,
Uh-huh.
like like our like our world, the world we live in, is like 30 or 40 or 50 years in the future, right? And so Westworld is a park in that world. And people go to that park to interact with robots who are basically um, they're becoming sentient, essentially. Like they're built to emulate humans.
Hmm.
And the way that they're built, it's interesting because like the way that like what you're describing, so it's kind of like the chatbots, right? But very sophisticated chatbots. Like they're designed to emulate humans, but not actually be human, right? But emulate them to what's that test? Like the Turing test? Is that what it is?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're built to be able to pass the Turing test, but not actually be sentient, right? So uh, but then of course, over the course of the show, they're becoming aware of themselves, and they
Yeah.
become, that's the whole point of the show, obviously. So it is kind of interesting because what what I thought about like with that is that the people basically go to Westworld, and there is basically just an excuse to um, have no rules, because there are no consequences.
Yeah.
Like, you can shoot, you can screw, you can do whatever, and there are absolutely no consequences for your actions, right? Um, and so what happens is that the robots are learning about people, but they're learning about the worst part of people.
Hmm.
And I think that's very kind of interesting. And I started thinking about like that with Twitter, right? Because like I'm just imagining like what if a bot, is or the AI or the algorithm in Twitter, is learning about humans from the human interaction on Twitter. Like, and I think that like that's a very interesting concept because like, if they're going to eventually become human, or if they're going to like decide that the human race is no there, I mean, like based on like the interaction on Twitter, then I think there's a pretty good case for that.
I think
So
it's also fascinating that we're like, yeah, like, but what's also upsetting, also we're at 6 minutes, is like, yeah, robots shouldn't learn how to interact with people from Twitter, but I'm pretty sure people shouldn't be learning how to interact with people from Twitter.
actually, yes. Yeah.
I I had a Twitter for a little bit. I never was able to break like whatever the beginning levels of Twitter is. I
Mm,
never got past it where like you start interacting with people in a real way.
mm,
Um, but like, boy, am I, because that, listen, I spend too much time on the internet and social media, but like Twitter, we maybe we should stop doing it. I'm
Yeah.
just
Well, and the thing is, like, I think that everyone agrees with what you're saying, but but no, even the people on Twitter, like
yeah,
even Jack Dorsey, like the founder of Twitter, like he said something like, it's my greatest accomplishment, my greatest, failure, or something like that. He says something along those lines.
I became the creator of death. Yeah, I get it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, like, I think everybody agrees with that sentiment, but at the same time, it's just part of
That's
it.
so
It's also just part of something that can't be stopped.
we have a more easier time envisioning us destroying each other than ending Twitter. Like
Right. Exactly.
it's oh, okay, bye baby. And like it's a fascinating thing about AI is like it just, and like the out, and like the joke, there's some truth in all jokes, you just don't know where the truth is.
Yeah.
Um but may you be blessed by the algorithm is like a real scary joke.
Yeah.
That's a real, you're saying, we're all like, we all kind of, it's the thing. I think I don't know if we talked about it on air, but I don't, it might not, but so 1984 is overused and dull, and we should probably talk more about Brave New World because it's the better of the two books.
Yep.
But I'm more interested in 1980, where everyone was like, this really is a good idea, this is
Absolutely.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna put cameras in front of all of our houses. Oh, I love this. I
Yeah.
love that we put camera, like with the thing that I feel like it's what's fascinating about 1984, a book I read and many years ago, but that I think about it all the time is like, and a lot of those system films is like the system is so big that
Mhm.
you are doomed. You will be eaten by the system. That is the
Yeah.
I also feel that way about Brazil, but I guess you should steal that movie because not Terry Pratchett. Terry Pratchett's great. He's dead, but he's great. Terry Gilliam seems to be not a great dude, and that sucks because Brazil is a great movie.
Yeah.
But uh, the thing about like those films is like, yeah, system just took over, and I'm like, when did that happen?
Right.
Like, what point? It had to be awesome for a handful. The system must have ruled for a little bit
Right.
there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh, which is that's something that we come back to pretty often is like, man, we were just in this, we don't even know how we got, this started with like chat rooms, and now we're here.
Mm.
How many steps did it take
Yeah.
to get here that like I just wasn't paying, like how much money did Andrew accidentally spend because you know uh his cost went up $5,
Right.
and the system is so broken that you don't, and like the fact that like the system doesn't seem to have a failsafe for that. It probably should.
Right. Exactly.
I'm not worried about AI music. Yeah, but when you're worried, it's already too
It's
late.
already too late. Right. Exactly.
Like yeah, like and and then you're like, well, what is this AI bot sentient? I'm like, well, what the hell is sentience? I'm really worried.
Right.
We got 2 minutes and 35 seconds,
Okay.
and it's it's always funny that like, oh man, I love that it's a theme park though. I think it's funny that like
Yeah.
we put so much money into sentience at a theme park, and I'm like, yeah, it sounds like people.
Right. Exactly.
Uh, like also, this is an important piece of the Yonko lore, which is always changing and never fits together correctly. Um,
Exactly.
but I do personally believe that all films that have the title world in them, or
Mhm.
any piece of media that has the title world in it, I think takes place in the same universe.
Oh, just the world. Yeah. So like Waterworld, Westworld, whatever. Yeah. Absolutely.
Chains.
Wayne's World. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Also, and I'm going to give you a joke.
Okay.
So yeah, that's one
So,
of my favorite jokes ever. I think everyone should know it. I'm glad that people do know it. And
well, thanks for telling that joke. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's probably the best thing I've said on this podcast thus far.
So hold on. We just went really into Yonko here because
Yeah.
we've been talking about AI. We've been recording. Well, first of all, we're also taking our lo-fi podcast to a whole new lo-fi level. So we've got we've got it on Zoom this week, and we also We're talking about AI that was controlling us, and that it stopped our meeting, stopped recording. So,
Yeah, they were like, yeah, it's enough of that. That's enough of this
exactly,
conversation. Oh, they
exactly.
know.
They know.
Oh, he's about to say a real offensive AI joke. I'm gonna kick him out.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Okay, so are we going to hear the joke?
perhaps it is the system is not so much that it is the system that is broken. It is that the fact that the system is working fine and it is not built for you.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So the theater joke is what you do is you take Annie. What you say is I got my favorite theater trilogy is the trilogy of Annies, which is Annie, Annie Get Your Gun, and Annie in Space. I love this joke. The reason I love this joke is Annie and Annie Get Your Gun are two completely different shows. They have nothing to do with each other.
Uh-huh.
And Annie in Space does not exist. So
Right.
that's our time. What a terrible build-up. There it is.
Oh, we actually have a beeper now. Okay. Actually, yeah, it felt a little weird, like not being able to see the time. I'm not sure if I like it better or not, so I might try
You
and.
have to figure out a way to see the time and see how this recorded because they'll if it gets rid of glitches, I'm really happy about that. What we might have to do is we might have to buy a physical clock
Uh,
that
oh, and just put it up there. Yeah.
put it
So
behind us and be like, okay, cool, hit that time. You have to like turn around and hit it.